Hi there. I'm excited to share this with you. I'll be releasing one chapter of my first book every week until the entire story is complete. You can listen while you're working, driving, or just kicking back in your favorite spot. Some chapters will be short, others a bit longer, but every one of them is free to enjoy. If it's not your thing, that's totally okay, no hard feelings. But if you like it, feel free to tune in each week or even share it with a friend. Can't wait for the next chapter? No problem. Scan the QR code on your screen to purchase the full book on Amazon. Happy listening.
Chapter 2. The Calling. The door is closed and dusk has begun to make everything around Chad dimmer. Chad barely notices the late hour as he prepares to open the door and find out if his wife will be accepting of his latest adventure. He has a great suspicion that she will not, but God has caused stranger things to happen in his life. Once for 2 weeks she had been talking to him about going out on a date and their schedules just did not line up. Finally, their schedules lined up, and they were both available with no work or church functions hindering them from going out. They decided that they had better use this opportunity to go out and made plans to do so. An hour before it was time for them to leave, he toiled back and forth with how to tell her that God told him not to go out with her that night. He did not want to disappoint her, and he wanted to go out as well. How much more would her sorrow be increased since she had been asking to go out for 2 weeks? Of course it crossed his mind that maybe he was not hearing from God, and even maybe, I will be disobedient this time and go out anyway. Many opportunities came for him to try and break the news to her, but he kept avoiding it, hoping that God would change his mind. God, however, did not, and it quickly became time for him to break the news. He did not dare disobey God, and it was mostly because of his great belief in God. It's hard to comprehend without understanding his thought process and belief system. Chad hears from God. He does not always agree with or understand what he hears, but he has learned over time that it is better to follow the prompting of God than it is to disobey. Not because God is out to get him and will punish him if he does the wrong thing, but more because God loves him and is trying to work things out for the best for him. Meaning that what God tells him is the thing that will get him the best result for his overall life. Chad has realized for a long time that he, no matter how much he tries to plan for the future, is limited to only the knowledge he currently has. God, on the other hand, has access to knowledge past, present, and future, which qualifies him to make the best decision. For example, if he went out on the date instead of obeying the voice of God, a robber may be waiting for them at the movies, he and his wife may get into an argument over something that happens on the date, or he may just miss out on some rest he will need to be able to focus on work the next day. He can't be sure what would happen, but he knows that God is sure, and he believes that God has his best interest in mind. Even with all that confidence in God, he would still have to deal with the consequences of telling his wife that, after all her insistence and patience, there would be no date. So, as previously stated, he toiled endlessly over having to tell her and hoped it was just a test to see if he was going to do what was right. If it was a test, just like with Abraham from the Bible, maybe God would see his faithfulness and tell him at the last second not to disappoint his wife. Finally, he came to a point where time was well spent and he could toil no more. He told God, "Nevertheless, your will be done." This was a reference to what Jesus from the Bible said in the Garden of Gethsemane, when it was time for him to go to the cross and die, but he wanted to live on. He said it so that God would know that he was going to do it God's way regardless of his own desire, just as Chad now used it to mean that he would follow God. His wife was in the room, picking out her outfit and looking kind of anxious. In her hand was a black dress on a hanger with elegant white zigzag lines running throughout. It was the same outfit she wore when they went to the opera some years prior. It was fitting but stylish. On the bed lay another outfit more casual in nature. It was a blue jeanish pants and blouse set. When worn correctly, it too had a measure of elegance to it. The look on her face seemed to be of pure frustration as she decided between the two. This made Chad's job that much more difficult. She is so excited that she is having trouble deciding on an outfit, Chad thought. His heart sank, thinking of what he must do and how disappointed she would be. In his head, he questioned God again just to be sure.
God, is this your voice telling me this?
Okay then, are you sure this is for my best? He hoped that God would change his mind, but that is not what happened. Chad cleared his throat as he prepared to drive the hard news bomb directly to the heart of his beloved lifetime companion. Karen. He forced out in a weak, crackly manner. It was as if he did not want to be heard, but hear him she did. She turned and looked at him with the frustration still on her face. He decided the best way to do it was just to rush into it and hope she could accept it. People don't always take it too well when someone tells them that God told them to ruin the day, especially when they are already upset. She did not actually say what, but the look on her face asked for her. We can't go out on the date, Chad said. Immediately, he rushed into explanation mode, trying to clear his name and let her know that he did not want to cancel. God told me no, and I tried to beg him, and I confirmed, and reconfirmed, but he kept saying the same thing. And I don't want to cancel our date, but I can't go against God. I'm sorry, but maybe we can do something at home together. The words poured out of his mouth like water from a fire hose set to its highest setting and then suddenly ran dry. He waited for a response as he looked her in the eye. The seconds ticked away like minutes as he wondered what was going on in her mind and what was she thinking about him. What would be her next move and just how bad would the argument be? Karen pursed her lips, preparing to speak. Okay, that's cool. With that, she took the dress and put it back in the closet. Chad did not want to stir up the beehive with a stick, but curiosity was eating away at him. How could this be cool after all the agonizing he had done over saying something? As he looked at his wife, it seemed as if she really was okay with it. Jokingly, he thought, is this a setup? Should I be afraid to go to sleep tonight? You're cool with it? Chad questioned. She looked back at him and gave a look like she had just remembered something. Oh, she said. What you don't know is that God was telling me the same thing, but I did not know how to tell you after all those times dropping hints and telling you about us needing to go out. So this is a relief to me too. That experience made Chad trust God even more. Now he stands in front of his door, wondering what exactly it is that he will say to his wife and what will be her response. The double doors are gorgeous with a provincial wood stain on top of a rectangular design. Each door has a frosted glass window with a beautiful inner etching, reaching from edge to edge. The design of the window works perfectly with the rectangular carvings that adorn the rest of the door. The doorknob is less of a knob and more of a golden latch. It's a golden backplate with an elegant handle attached from bottom to just about middle. Directly above the handle is the latch, protruding from the backplate like a tongue from a mouth. A slight curve in the design makes it fit comfortably to the thumb of the one who is opening the door. Chad reaches out his hand to open the door slowly, not sure of his wife's reaction. Perhaps he is trying to enjoy the feeling of being a hero for just a few more moments. He inserts his key and gives it a twist while depressing the latch. The door opens with a slight but elongated creaking noise. Chad decides that the best thing to do is to downplay the incident and act as if everything is fine. As he creeps the door open, he gives out his familiar call. Hi honey, I'm home. The sound echoes through the opening hallway. The house is an ordinary one-story home with an extraordinary entrance hallway. The hallway is 10 feet wide and 40 feet long and boasts 13-foot ceilings with 2 archways going straight back into the family room. The hallway is a simple feature, but it makes the entire home seem bigger and more luxurious. However, it is just a hallway with enough space to be its own room. This may seem like a waste of space, but Karen has so decorated it that it has become a functional part of the house, good for entertaining guests. The walls are decorated with sophisticated artwork that complements the sitting areas and lamps that line each side. One of the sitting areas is made of a stylish chair and mini table with a lamp on it. The other has a sofa and across from it a love seat, both under a glass chandelier. The family room has a large screen TV surrounded by a wooden entertainment center. The wood is a dark wood, which matches the 2 leather theater seating sofas on each side of the room. On the same wall as the TV is the entrance to Chad's room. He walks up the hallway holding his side and slumping as he drags himself in. He realizes that in order to play off the severity of the beating he just took, he will have to force himself to walk as normal as he can. His wife echoes back from the master bedroom. "Welcome home, dear." The greeting he gives when walking in the house is as much a salutation as it is a warning that he is in the house. Karen tends to overreact when surprised by the presence of another person. She goes into a self-defense mode, which could end badly for the one who surprises her. Chad learned early on in their relationship to make sure she knows when he gets home. He takes a deep breath and prepares himself to explain. "I know God, I remember. I'll go pray as soon as I finish with my wife. I could use your help with her, if you don't mind." Chad mumbles on his way down the hall. It is obvious that God is still telling him that he needs to pray about the crime in the area. As he reaches the family room, he is well aware that the next room he goes to is the master bedroom where his wife is. He takes a deep breath and uses it to build up his stature by straightening his back and shoulders. "Just take the pain and move like normal," he thinks. The first step is a little shaky, but it's okay because he has a few more steps to improve on it. His mind races as he tries to bolster himself. "Why is it that when you concentrate on walking normal, it seems to be the hardest thing in the world to do? Oh yeah, gotta put some pep in my step." He attempts to reasonably replicate the energy of his usual walk, but the extra speed only shortens the amount of time he has until he is seen by his wife. Ready or not, he enters the room and says, "Hi, honey. How was your day?" As luck would have it, she is facing the opposite direction, looking at the television. She answers, "Fine. How about you?" Her sweet voice reverberates in his head as he thinks of how to answer that question. If he answers fine and moves on, he may avoid the whole conversation, but only for a while. Eventually, she would see his face and ask what happened. Then he would have to have the conversation plus a new one about why he did not tell her in the first place when she asked about his day. On the other hand, if he tells her he got beat up, then the conversation he would rather avoid would start immediately. "Oh well. Bite the bullet," he thinks. "You won't believe what happened to me today, darling," he exclaims. "I'm all right, so don't worry, but I got into a fight." This grabbed her full attention, and she turned toward him and, with surprise in her voice, said, "What?" Her heart drops a beat as she looks at the minced face of her beloved husband and questions galore dance through her mind. "What? Who? Are you okay?" she inquires with flustered concern. Calm down, honey," he says as he reaches his arms out to comfort her and settle her down. It's amazing how instantly she is drawn in and the hurt transfers from him to her. Tears begin to flow from her eyes as she looks at the handiwork of those young thugs and realizes that she could have lost her husband and did not even know it was happening. Her face is so full of emotion that Chad realizes why he did not want to give her the news. It was not because she would fuss at him or put him down for getting involved. It was because of this. The heartbreak and anxiety that she would feel on his behalf was far worse to have to manage than being scolded. "What happened?" she mutters with her voice giving out in the middle of her statement as she sobs. "It's not as bad as it seems. I'm fine," he states as sensitively as he can. "Really?" Sniff, sniff. "You don't look fine. Who were you fighting, and why?" she questions after calming herself enough to form words. Karen had been looking away and wiping tears from her eyes, but at that moment, she looks up and catches another glimpse of his face. Her very being instantly fills with sympathy, regret, sorrow, and other such feelings. The tears roll again. "I saved someone," he answers. "She was being mugged, and God used me to step in and possibly save her life." "Her life?" she chides. "What about your life? What would we do if you got killed?" He was obviously a strong guy. Reluctantly, he corrects. "Well, there were 3 or 4 of them actually." He is still trying to maintain the facade that he is not injured, but the pain is getting to him. For people, Chad? For people? She gruffs. Yeah, but you had to be there to understand the situation. He explains. It was all God, I tell you. It was like I wasn't even in control of my body. Was it God or all those superhero shows and articles and websites? If God were in control, I would think that he could fight better. You are always helping somebody, but what about your own life? Do you understand the situation of being married? She snipes. Her frustration is off the charts as she subconsciously attempts to figure out a way to express all her thoughts, feelings, and concerns. Unfortunately, it is starting to come out as anger. That's not what I meant. I am just trying to tell you that I was not out there trying to be a hero or anything. I didn't even throw a punch. He pleads, trying to get her to understand. So you waited until you were being beat up to turn the other cheek? You should have done that before you got involved in a situation that had nothing to do with you. We will have to talk about this later, I just can't take it right now. And with that, she turns and leaves the room. Chad wants to stop her and try to make her understand his point of view, but he knows that it is better to allow her to cool off and come to terms with what has happened. She is a woman of faith, but she is easily drawn into worry about things that could affect her future. What will happen if she dies? What will happen if Chad dies? Who is going to pay the bills if one of them is unable to work? What will happen when they are old enough to retire? Will they have enough to live off of? These types of questions plague her constantly. She fights hard to hold them all back and act quote-unquote normal as she sees everyone else doing, but situations like this break down all her defenses and sends her into a downward spiral. Words, wisdom, and knowledge have little effect on the downward spiral. It's time that helps her heal and go back to a functioning normal. Perhaps as she lives past the moment, she begins to slowly realize that everything is okay and that nothing has truly changed about the good life that she truly is living. Maybe this gives her strength to set up her defenses again and forge constructive responses to life situations. Whatever the case, Chad knows his words are unwanted and ineffective. Better to live on a corner of the roof than share a house with a quarrelsome wife. Chad quotes out of frustration. Chad is upset now because he knows what he did was right, but he has no way to explain things to Karen. He thinks, this is not right. How do I get fussed at for saving someone's life? And to be honest, I knew better, God. You led me into that alleyway. I was afraid and wanted to turn around, yes, I remember. I'm going to go pray right now about the crime problem and a solution, but I need to calm down first. You saw how she treated me, okay? Is it that important that I pray right now? What if she was still here yelling at me, then you would have to wait anyway. Oh wow. He pauses and thinks it through. You are slick. You had a hand in that, didn't you? You moved on her and caused her to be so overwhelmed that she would leave early so I could go pray. The king's heart is in the hand of the Lord, as the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will. That's your word. Okay, Lord. I will go pray since it's so important to you. Chad drops the bag that weighs so heavily in his hand. The conversation with Karen was so intense that he had forgotten that the bag was actually causing pain to his already injured upper torso. Or maybe he had held onto it as a means of continuing his ruse of perfect health. Even Chad is not sure why he held onto it for so long, but that is not important now. For now, God is summoning him. Now, it is time to go out to the dojo. Chad has a workout dojo in his backyard. It is basically a closed-in open space area with nothing to break. It is where he practices with his meteor hammer. The meteor hammer is a long rope, like a lasso, only it has no hoop for catching things at the end of it. Instead, it has a metal ball, about the size of a baseball, or a large metal spike on its tip. The weapon is swung around in continuous circular motions with beautiful style. The user must make the circular motions and somehow calculate how to swing it in just such a way as to make the ball on the end strike his target. It can be used in a variety of ways, but the user has to be aware of the rope, as it is possible to get tangled in the rope and even accidentally pull the iron ball back towards the user. It's so complex that it often caused Chad to marvel at God for making something so involved be within human capabilities. It seemed impossible, and yet Chad was something of an expert with it. As can be imagined, the dojo's ceiling is high, like Chad's hallway, to give plenty of space for swinging the meteor hammer. There is a medium-sized basement area below the dojo that was created to hold any extra equipment that Chad was not using, attack dummies, floor cushions, targets, etc. So as not to be interrupted, Chad often uses this area to pray. Chad walks slowly through his bedroom door, subconsciously looking and listening for Karen's movement. If at all possible, he would like to avoid another run-in with her, but he did not pay attention to where she went in the house when she left him. Fortunately, the back door is only one room away from his bedroom door. A quick trip across the family room leads to the breakfast nook, which is also the home of the now coveted back door. One problem still remains: the family room is viewable from most of the other rooms in the house, with the exception of the back bedrooms and bathrooms. I did not do anything. I was the one who got beat up. Why am I sneaking through my own house? Chad ponders as he cautiously takes his next few steps toward freedom. Luckily, Chad has carpeted floors and tile in his family room and breakfast nook, so there is no chance of creaking wood beneath his feet as he stealthily voyages toward the back door. The back door has a single deadbolt lock just above the knob. A sudden sound down the hallway near the back rooms draws his attention. His head turns to investigate, but his feet keep steady toward the target. He is unable to tell the meaning of the sound. Is she coming toward him, or is she just moving around? Suddenly, his leg brushes against the remote, causing it to roll off the couch and head toward the ground. Oh no! Chad thinks. She is already moving around. The noise from the impact of the remote will just draw attention and cause her to come in this direction. It is amazing how many thoughts can form in such a short time. Should he try and reach back to catch it or just keep going forward? It's almost to the floor, so there is no time to grab it. It hits the carpet with a hard blow and makes almost no sound at all. Chad's raised heartbeat begins to calm as the almost silent poof comes to pass. Chad beelines it straight for the door. That was close, and he can do without another close call like that one. Chad exits the house via the back door and turns to lock it up. His keys are still in his pocket since he did not have a chance to change clothes or clean himself up. He dares not leave it unlocked because that is another one of his wife's insecurities. If she were to find the back door unlocked, she would put on a show as if the house had been burglarized or someone had snuck in and hidden themselves under a bed. He turns around and sees the dojo. God is still pushing him, telling him to go pray about the crime problem. Chad knows from experience that when God is being this urgent with him, there is an actual change that God wants to make. But what possible change could God make that would affect crime? In light of his current situation, it all seems so unnecessary. Chad trudges toward the dojo, mumbling, "Nevertheless, Lord. Nevertheless." Chad makes his way to the basement. It is already set up as a prayer point and has a blanket on one side of it for lying prostrate. While it is not big, he does have more room inside than he actually needs for storage. His knees drop to the tan-colored blanket on the floor, and he starts his prayer, saying thank you to God for various things that he appreciates about his life. It is his belief that you should always start off praising God before presenting him with a list full of requests, even if God is calling you and the wish list is not your own, as is the case with Chad. Chad really does not know what to pray when the praise is up. He asks God to help him hear what to pray for. Chad then asks God to find a solution to the crime problem. He tells God to send help for the poor police officers who are overrun by the malicious activities of multiple miscreants. As he asks for this, he starts to feel his help coming from the Holy Spirit. His prayer becomes fervent and boisterous. He listens to himself, as he says whatever he is led to say. Listening to someone being led by the Spirit is one way to gain information on both future and present happenings. It's weird because even the person speaking through the Spirit does not necessarily know or understand everything being said. This is because the Spirit speaks the things that he knows to speak and does not limit himself to the things that are known by the person he speaks through. Chad speaks out loud as he prays through the Spirit while at the same time thinking about the things he is hearing himself say. And, God, you can raise up just one person to take care of the crime problem if you so deem it. I suppose God could if he wanted to. Do that, Father. Cause him to be a man of integrity, strength, and skill. One man to take care of all that. That would be a miracle. Give him wisdom and words to know what to do and to say to make the changes you want made. No wonder he wants me praying for this guy. I feel sorry for the officer or lawmaker he gives this responsibility to. Protect him as it is that he will have to use his time, energy, and strength to overcome and be victorious. Give him the ability to fight. I wonder is that figurative for how tough the battle on crime will be. And most of all, Father, help him to say yes to you in all things so that you can show your power through him. Help him to make it through even the tough crime of the lawless zone. The lawless zone? What manner of man is this? Glad all I have to do is pray for him. Let not any weapon formed against him prosper, and even bullets that are meant for him shall pass him by. He's going to be shot at. Protect and guard. The prayer continues and time passes by, minute by minute, until an hour passes. Chad is not aware of how much time has passed, but he feels the urge to stop praying and just sit and listen in the presence of God. This is another way that Christians get leadership, guidance, and information about their futures. Normally, this is a time of meditation where the individual sits and listens to the voice of God and tries to come to terms with whatever is said. Chad, however, tends to talk back and discuss what he hears out loud, as if he is having a face-to-face conversation with God. Sweat rolls down Chad's head as he settles himself following that intense prayer session. The silence is stunning, but his mind is so abuzz with questions and thoughts about the prayer. He actually feels concern, no, worry, for the one who he had to pray for even though he does not know who it will be. The cover below him offers him a buffer between his knees and the concrete floor. He takes a few moments to calm his mind. Gotta calm down. Gotta focus only on God. Chad mutters. Chad sits in silence for about 5 minutes, then. Okay, God, I'm here. Between getting beat up, being a hero, dealing with Karen, and hearing that you plan to put a burden like that on one man, it was hard to clear my mind. I don't know, Lord. You tell me. I have to admit I have really started to like looking into the various superheroes, but only you know why you gave me the assignment. Would have been nice if one stepped in before I got assaulted. Of course none were around. If so, I did not see them, and they didn't help out at all. I would need you to explain to them how to be a hero. Chad's face goes flush at what he hears. Fear, doubt, and insecurities crowd his heart and mind. Chad knows that he hears from God, but he also fears that even he can make a mistake and hear or understand wrong. This is what he attributes what he is hearing to. He is unable to fully grasp the possibility of what God is speaking to him. At the same time, a small part of him thinks that it is a little cool. A very, very small part. And that part is overrun by the feeling of great dread and a need to reconfirm what he is hearing. Wait, God. I must have heard wrong. That can't be, and I can't do that. Is that you talking, God, or is it me? Chad questions. This method of questioning is how Chad deals with information that he receives but can't quite deal with. He asks several times and, when the answer does not change, he figures that God is speaking and he is not changing his mind. God, this can't be you. It has to be me trying to relive that hero feeling I had earlier. Well, yes, I know you gave me that feeling. No, I just figured it was a small reward for doing what you wanted me to. God, I just have to be sure. Is this you? God, you know that I'm just a normal man, and I'm 40, and I'm married, and I have a family, and you know how my wife acts, and I don't fight, and you don't like fighting. Yeah, turn the other cheek, remember, and I just got beat up, for goodness sake. What kind of superhero gets beat up by young thugs? I know it was more of them than of me, but heroes always have to deal with that. And you, God, you did not step in and help me. Well, yeah, it was kind of strange how fast the police arrived, but you should have given me strength or made them weaker or something. Lord, I'm just not enough to handle such a big assignment. I know about David's mighty men, but how can you compare me to any of them? God was using the familiar story of David's mighty men to show Chad how he can affect the life of normal human beings. David's mighty men refers to a story in the Bible of King David, one of the greatest and strongest kings of all times. He had certain men with him that were so talented and brave that they were mentioned in the Bible itself. Joshua-Basshebeth defeated 800 men in a single encounter on the field of war. Eleazar the Ahohite stood firm when his army retreated and he fought the enemy. He fought so hard that his hand froze and he could not let go of his sword. He won that skirmish, and the rest of his army returned only to strip the dead after his victory. And that's just two of the ones mentioned. It was no wonder Chad does not believe he should be put in the same category as such men. Lord, don't say such things of me. I can't do it. Surely you have someone that you have better prepared for this assignment. Yeah, I have been training with that meteor hammer for many years now, but there is more to it than that. I would need to create and maintain a secret identity. I don't have a vehicle to soup up. I don't have a secret lair or a sidekick or fancy gadgets or a way to finance such a thing. I have a lot of reasons not to and no good reason to. You're right. Nevertheless, not my will but yours be done. Can I have time to think it all over and make a plan or something? Thank you, God. Chad gets up with his mind blown at the thought of the responsibility that God just placed on him. There's no questioning what God just said, but Chad still does not want to believe that he could be called to do such a thing. Pastor, preacher, minister, teacher, evangelist, missionary, all these are traditional callings of God, but Chad has never heard of superhero being a calling. He tries to accept it but cannot, and asking God for time is his way of putting off having to truly accept it and hopefully give God time to change his mind. He ascends the stairs, and pain is in his side. It is another gruesome reminder of why he should not accept the assignment he is being given. He prepares himself to go back into the house but is unable to let go of what God just requested of him. Even dealing with Karen does not seem as pressing or uncomfortable, given these circumstances. Chad decides one thing for certain: he is not going to tell Karen until he knows for sure what he is going to do.